us. Okay, so if you haven't done so yet, take a second to get your episode loaded and paused at the 0 second mark. And without more discussion, if you've been here before, you know what we're doing next. If you're new, here's what you do: grab your remote and have your thumb on the play button, but don't press it yet because we're going to do that at the same time on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
So I take it this is a treasure box. I was going to ask that question while you were explaining. I was like, I don't know what a treasure box is, but I'm assuming that's what that is.
When I was a kid, I had so many of these boxes. They're like, are they cigar boxes? Old cigar boxes? And my grandfather would give them to me, and I'd just collect treasure in them. I had tons of them,
I
and I
only had
loved
one.
them. I had so many.
Yeah, I had something like that. That's why I called it that.
Yeah, we used to just put things in it that we wanted to keep for some reason or other. And then, like, when I graduated high school, I had this box full of things. I was looking through it. I'm like, wow, why did I keep this?
Oh, look at those dresses.
And that
Beautiful.
shot.
I see some wrangling going on behind in that car.
See, told ya.
They have a U-Haul, remember? But
I'm just a step behind at the moment because for some reason it blocked out.
I love that little bit, them changing tables.
super relatable.
They're regulars.
Yeah, you never see it in diners, but it's just something that happens all the time in restaurants. Period. But that's like the first time I've ever seen it on TV.
So, like, I was on the wrong episode.
Too much wrangling. So that's what I mean about it was just accepted that if you were in a certain group, you just went to the Catskills for 2 months. That's why she assumed that Susie knew that meant she was going to be gone for 2 months.
One of my favorite Susie lines is the one that she said about like sweating and smelling like a bum until it gets cold. That's just how summer is in New York.
They're getting married. I love it. Also, is that the first time she's called her Miriam? Because that felt weird.
Maybe it's like Logan calling Rory, Rory instead of Amy.
Yes, very true.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Do you think Johnny will be there teaching dance lessons?
I hope so.
Uh,
Look at that
you
car.
you will get to see some fine male specimens.
Kirby.
Oh, yes, yes, you will.
Will
I
they be called
cannot
Jenny
wait.
Castle?
Yeah, each family is assigned a cabana boy or a boy to help them around the resort every day.
I'm obsessed with Midge's outfit. She looks incredible.
As usual,
Wait, where's the baby? Did
I
I
like
miss what
that
they do?
yellow too.
That's going to be a thing.
The
I
baby's
think the
in the U-Haul.
baby's still in the car. Like, they'll get to it eventually.
Oh man, I want a Bloody Mary right now.
I was just thinking I just really want a vacation.
Awesome hat.
I love her explanation. The kids are his, and he likes them.
There's the baby.
Finally.
Did she say bring that too?
She
Yes,
did.
she did.
She did.
Oh my
Oh, that's
lord.
just wrong. That is so wrong.
I love the uniforms on these guys. The peach.
Seems like they would get hot wearing those.
Yeah, they probably did.
This is such a fun sequence.
I remember I was yellow being obsessed with this scene, and now I get why.
One of the reasons it's called the Borscht Belt is because back in the 20s, the Jews were pretty much banned or not allowed to stay at the hotels in New York, so they would escape upstate.
And Amy Sherman Palladino's father was a Borscht Belt comedian. So this is, in a way, a love letter to him.
This scene is like a play.
If anybody else is a fan of Wes Anderson, you might be getting a Wes Anderson vibe in this scene.
Definitely the
Yep.
colors. Definitely like the production design is very Wes Anderson. He loves all that pastel.
Absolutely. We're obsessed with Anderson in this house.
Such fun films he does.
Why is the couch outside?
It needs to air out. It's been stuck in that cabin all winter.
Who loves rice pudding here? I love rice pudding.
Oh, I love rice pudding.
Me too.
One of my best days ever at work was when one of my coworkers just made rice pudding all day, and then we sat and ate it and watched TV. Best day ever.
You'll see some more like dirty dancing vibes in this next scene. Fonts matter, right?
Absolutely.
I love the difference between the girls' shorts and the guys' shorts here.
So this is a shared trait of Joel and Midge's then.
I was just gonna say, weird. There's a microphone and a Maisel steps up. Ugh.
Oh. Why would they smile at each other?
Because they're friends.
I actually like that.
Yeah, he stood up for her family.
I like how he stands up for her.
I am just joshing. That was nice of him, even if I do find it funny that these two just physically can't resist a stage.
And that they think everyone always wants to hear what they have to say.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Somebody at some point needs to sing that song from Dirty Dancing that the sister sings on the stage. Akaloo, it just has to happen.
Is
I'm
that
g-
still Midge's suitcase?
Oh, I think it might be.
The blue?
Yes. Because didn't he get a lot of slack for having a woman's suitcase when he left?
And that's why everything fit in the U-Haul, because that suitcase was missing.
Oh my
Ah.
gosh. Yes.
What a pretty view of the lake.
It is very pretty.
Is this in the mountains?
The Catskills.
The Catskills.
Oh, Catskill Mountains.
Yeah, they're smaller than the Adirondacks, but they're
Interesting. I don't. I mean, I
it
don't
is
know.
it
I
is
don't know the
mountainous.
area well enough to know.
John, doesn't it remind you of Dirty Dancing? Just a little bit?
Well, that's
Not
why I
really.
said somebody needs to sing that song on here.
Well, that's what Nancy was getting at before, is that in the Catskills there were all these resorts for that were, run by Jewish owners, and many Jewish families would escape the city to go to a resort in the Catskills, and there were tons of them.
Yeah, because a lot of them were banned from the hotels in New York City.
Yeah, plus it's just cooler up there.
It's cooler. Yes.
Cooler, as in
Temperature.
like
It is
temperature
it's
cooler.
98 degrees and humid in the city for the whole summer, and a couple hours up state, it's significantly cooler, especially on a lake.
And the woman beside Rose and Midge in this scene, she was the woman that Midge offers to pay for her pork chops in the pilot episode.
Oh yeah.
Excellent catch, Nancy.
That like little side shot of Rose's face in that tiny mirror really freaked me out. It caught the corner of my eye and it was like a jump scare.
I love the jackets, like the little smocks.
Going on what the lady just said to them about you look like sisters. This episode really highlights how similar they look, and more than other episodes, because you really see them together very often, sitting side by side like this.
Amy is good about making the matches between the two actresses and making them look a lot alike.
Oh, she's so cruel.
In this I see a little similarity between the dynamic between Lorelai and Emily, where they just Lorelai keeps her out of her business at all costs.
Just one glass of water in between every drink.
It's very true.
Yeah, if you're drinking and you just get right to the buzzed spot that you're really happy with, from that moment on, one glass of water between every drink, and you'll keep it.
Thanks, John.
Is there a manual somewhere? Notebook I should be writing this down on.
I feel that, Curry.
I
I,
love Rose's dress.
this challenge is very, very Remarcus.
Yeah, this is and this. Oh, I love this
I
scene,
love
and
this
Is that
challenge.
the same
it is.
song?
It is. Yes, from They Shoot Gilmore's, don't they? Yep, same exact song.
Oh my god. I
It's called
Sing,
love
sing,
this.
sing, sing is
"Swing,
a very
Swing,
famous
Swing,
song,
Swing."
though.
Yeah,
Oh,
I love this challenge.
the the shots in this, the tracking and everything is just superb.
Oh, I'm obsessed with this.
Oh, I love that suit.
I don't know if you caught that word, those both words, mitzvah and shidduch. Mitzvah is a gift or um, a good thing, and shidduch is the matchmaking. So when they were talking, what she's doing right now, actually.
I love Abe dancing on the chair in the background.
I don't think Abe's alcohol index thing is working because I think he's drunk.
Oh no, I knew it. This episode is giving me the same vibe that the season 1 episode did. I think, was it the finale or the one before the finale, where I thought that these two were gonna do the do.
Finale. I had never heard the words to this song before this scene. I've heard the song many times, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, I also think Abe is just drunk.
He needs to work on those equations.
Yeah,
It's not
that
working
I
for
think.
him.
Yeah, I think that was the joke that like he had this whole thing planned out and just did not work.
Rose's dress is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's one of my
Agreed.
favorite dresses I've ever seen her in.
Oh my gosh, those bird sounds are amazing. Oh my goodness, this song.
Speaking of amazing costumes, I think musical fans, please correct me. I think this is from Music Man.
Oh, I mean, we used to listen to this song in PE when I was in elementary school. They would turn this on while we were like doing our exercises.
But were you also drinking Bloody Marys while exercising?
Well, we were like 8 years old, so no.
Yeah, fair.
Interesting gym teacher.
She's not even blinking. Oh my god, that was so awful. Ugh, that guy.
And she gets to win knowing if Midge was allowed to compete, she would not be winning.
Is the baby going to be in the car with the magazine still? Is this where this finally turns into horror?
They did take the baby out of the car, right?
I mean, I think
I don't
we
think
never
we've seen the
Yes.
see
baby.
that baby.
Yes.
All right, so Susie just nailed like completely hit on why this environment does not at all seem relaxing to me whatsoever. There's just something about the forest that feels very full of bugs. Bugs and bugs
Now you
and
sound
like
like Lorelai.
Come off it.
yeah.
In Florida, they have bugs twice as big as the Catskills
Oh
bugs.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean that I think it's my upbringing and the trauma that I suffered about like just bugs
Someone's a
that I
city
just don't
kid
like them.
too, obviously.
I mean, it is full of bugs, but and you eat a lot of them. I mean, it's just protein. They're not going to kill you.
Wait, John, I thought you like eating crickets and stuff. Didn't you
No,
say
it's
that?
not about the eating them. I mean, I actually didn't mind that she well, she inhaled the bug, but it's just more just like there's something about a forest that seems itchy to me. Like I'm just thinking poison ivy, poison oak. I'm thinking like all that dirt on the ground's kind of scratchy and itchy and pine needles and just doesn't seem like a relaxing place.
Mosquitoes.
Yeah, mosquitoes.
I think we're on the lunch buffet more than we enjoy the forest.
Yeah, like flies, all kinds of. I mean, just it just doesn't seem comfortable.
Hey, John, if you got a call from Amy and she was like, "Hey, I got this like small part for you for a while. Would you take it?" In Maisel.
Uh, Probably. I don't know. I probably depends on the role, I guess. But I can't imagine turning it down.
John, I feel like you're being very Brian-esque with your comments about the forest.
And itchy.
But that's very me, though. I mean, I don't know. Brian would feel the same way, probably. But just forests are a little too itchy for me. Not that I don't mind them. I would go hang out in a forest a little bit, but I don't think I would want to go like in a sort of in like a camp situation like this. It wouldn't really appeal to me.
That first seminar is amazing.
I think the hula hooping is amazing. I
Well,
mean,
he did promise more hula hoops and more balls.
Why is she carrying a plunger?
To look
she's
like she fits
undercover.
in. Yeah,
Yeah.
she wants to. If she carries that around, then everybody will assume she works there. Nobody will
Were
question her.
were uh, were hula hoops basically the fidget spinners of the 50s?
Yeah, and when they first came out, they were real fads. Like yeah, like fidget spinners or pet rocks. I'm sorry, I'm
More
dating
like
myself,
air
but
fryers.
yeah,
They were
or,
the air fryers of the 50s.
I had a hula hoop when
or
I
like
was a
yo-yos.
kid, and I loved my hula hoops. Like, I was obsessed. I hula hooped all the freaking
But
time.
It's just it's funny that it was such a huge fad. I mean, it's not like it's something that I mean, I have to imagine that they had hula hoops in the Roman Empire. I mean, that's just like a circular like
but
just take a branch and just wrap it, and you've got a hula hoop.
But I think that the plastics, the pliable plastics weren't available until the 50s or maybe late 40s. And so when they were invented and made so affordable and so widely distributed, that's when they became fads. And that had just happened in this decade. So that may be why it could have been another kind of device in different years, but
That's cool.
they were
That shot
fresh
is
and new.
beautiful.
Yeah, that's really cool. Just the whole idea. That's true. Yeah, plastics became like a big thing in the 50s.
Yeah, I'm sorry, by the way, I jumped in over that conversation, but I really need to say that shot over the lake was gorgeous.
Oh, absolutely.
And Susie's plunger plan worked out for her.
There's your alligator mention, Shauna.
Ooh, alligator.
Oh my god.
I want Joel's shirt.
That is a very cool shirt. Does anyone have a count on how many outfits Midge wears in this episode? Because it's up there.
But they won the Emmy for costumes in this episode, I believe.
Ah,
I'm
gotcha.
almost positive that's true.
Okay, can anybody get excited about who this is?
Yes, yes,
Chuck,
Oh my
yes.
gosh,
I'm a
I'm
fan.
vibrating. I love him.
you love him because of Chuck?
I just love him because of everything.
And Shazam too, right?
Shazam, How I Met Your Mother. He's just,
He was on
Oh,
yeah.
he
He's
did
Suits.
so,
American Horror Story, right?
That Marshall's
but
had that he sings in.
he's just so wonderful in Shazam, though.
He is. I just the first thing I saw him on was that Chuck show a long time.
And he just moved to Oklahoma, so, I might accidentally on purpose run into him sometime.
Yes, in the name of all of us, please do.
Is
It's
Joel gonna
amazing.
see? Oh, sorry, Curry.
Oh, I was going to say it's amazing that they found an actor who with no visible tattoos at all and could show that much skin.
Well, they could have covered him up. They do a really good job of covering up
I love
tattoos
her
these days.
boating outfits
If they
though.
had cast me in that role, they wouldn't get any tattoos either.
I'm sort of making a joke comment about the prevalence of tattoos, and you really don't see anybody showing that much skin anymore without some, especially that age, I would say.
The joke was mostly the image of me in that role.
In the
That's
red
it.
swim trunk.
That's it. Season 5.
In
Yes,
Midge's
you.
dress?
Season 5. You're going to be a cabana boy.
Is Joel gonna spot them from land and get into a jealous rage? Or not?
You wish.
I love how all the blankets match. They all have Steiner Resort embroidered on their corners.
She's so happy.
I love that.
Oh my gosh, this is at the top of my drunk performance list. When you're so drunk and you just love the sound, the vibration of your own voice as you're speaking. Oh.
That's their song that he heard on the radio.
Of course it is.
Did their house come with a nanny?
Oh no. Yes, I believe it does.
Earlier in the episode, she did mention a sitter at one point for
I sense some incoming jealousy.
Is he really short or is he really
no
tall?
the
Both.
yeah, but the actor playing Benjamin is very tall.
I think it's a little bit of a mix of the two. I don't think that what is his name? Michael Zagan.
Yeah,
I don't think that he's extremely tall. I think that he's probably
right.
like, and then this guy's
He's
very tall.
over 6 feet. Yeah. So somebody mentioned jealousy, and this is a very small world that they're in, but it's unclear to me whether they know who each other is in this.
Well, Midge seemed to know everyone, but she is Midge, so I don't
Hmm.
know if that translates to everyone else.
Right.
I
But and then the guy, the Benjamin, is also has a very, I mean, he doesn't. I got the sense that he doesn't come up there all the time. He's a doctor, but his mother is probably knows every Zachary Levi. That's his name. Um, his mother is probably knows everybody. So I don't know. There's something about the dynamics of that scene. This is now many times that I've watched this, and that whole philosophical exchange that they have, or yeah, ethical, like about forgiveness. It just it just is unclear to me. I'm guessing, I'm leaning towards they don't really know who each other is, but I'd love to hear other people's thoughts about that.
Yeah, I
It
don't get a sense that they
seems
know each other.
Yeah, it seems to me In this time period, the wives or the women were the ones that kept their finger on the pulse of who was who and who did what, and the men just took what little information they needed from they were given it by their wives or daughters or the women in their lives. Like the men don't seem all that concerned about that part of life. So I don't really think they know who each other are.
I don't know if it'll end. I cannot recall if it will end up being important. I don't. I think though that um I think that Joel would have had a better chance of knowing who Benjamin is than the other way around, I think.
I tend to agree because, the women in the 50s, they knew the men were out there, but they kind of didn't associate with them until they were matched up with them for whatever reason. They didn't they didn't really hang out with the opposite gender unless they were matched up with them. Does that make sense?
Well, right. And
Yeah.
he wouldn't have been circulating with, I mean, every other summer before Midge and Joel were married, so Benjamin wouldn't have really been a part of their circle because he would have been a a singleton at that point.
Fact. Yeah, and you're right because Joel might have had more knowledge of him because the men kind of, would get together and play cards or whatever, or do boating or whatever they would do up there, whatever men do.
Well, he was playing cribbage with like women his mother's age, I believe, when we first encounter him.
Yeah, they stick with the same gender. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, and then there was that whole exchange about um, when they were in the main hall where the woman comes up to Midge and says, "Sorry, our husbands are better friends with each other than you and I are friends." And that was that awkward exchange. Um, and, right, the gender, it sort of went down gender lines. So, what did everybody think?
I
This is
think it was absolutely a beautiful episode.
yeah, this has always been my favorite, um, at least so far. I think it's so I like the historical context, but I also love how unbelievably colorful it is, like even more so than the other episodes. Like something I noticed on this watch was like there's a particular shade of peach that's like everywhere. Like it shows up in the background, it shows up on like Midge's fingernails. Like it's so all over the place, and it just kind of gives it um a summery feel. Like it feels really different, and it feels kind of cool. And like I just love the background talent too. Like everybody in this episode is like just so colorful and fun, and I really love it.
It also brought in, it also had, speaking of background talent and smaller roles that only appear in one scene, for example the dance scene, like it has that sort of it gives them that sort of small town feel that because everybody does know each other, so it's almost like, I mean, it's analogous, if you will, to Stars Hollow, where everybody knows each other, and people have little quirks, and I don't know, I sort of saw that similarity.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really interesting about the resort experience that they're bringing to light here is the fact that there's a true community that happens over the summers. And even that little bit about like, oh, like in the beginning when they all gather for the opening of the Steiner summer, and they're like, oh, we have a couple of, couples who have found each other because of this resort. And like, that's such a real thing that, many people would meet at like on their summer vacation at these resorts. I have a friend who it wasn't a resort per se, but it was definitely a lake community, a Jewish lake community, and her husband's parents met that way. And and it's just a community of people that meet every summer, and it's kind of nice. It's summer camp for adults or for families, where you see the same people over and over. It's I like that they made in this episode characters we've never seen before that don't even have names feel like, oh yes, the Maisels know these people. Like that there's something about that is really cool.
That first woman, the one with the fabulous matching hat to her dress, who was very familiar with them, like, okay, so what are we doing, where are you in the process of, and the thing that must not be named, the divorce. And she was so presumptuous, and you just you just got the feeling that they'd had conversations like that with her, not on the same topic, but sort of topical, um conversations, that somehow news reaches everybody before they all get together. It's not one of those things where you tell everybody what's happened in the past year. Everybody already knows. I mean,
Right.
especially in case of the separation. So you kind of get the sense that they probably all live in the same neighborhood back home as well, and they all just trek up to the Catskills. Um, but that they are really part of a, it's more diffuse when they're in the city, but when they're in the Steiner resort, they're all together in a little bit more of a close quarters, I guess.
Right. They're all sitting on the same blankets, like actually, literally and figuratively. They're all in the same place. They're having meals all together. They're doing activities together, so everybody's going to know everybody's business. And it's a real interesting moment where, uh, Midge's private life, or even anyone's private life, like, isn't so private. It's actually like it's part of the community. um and the fact that they might break up is significant to the community, because like I said, like, this is a place where they're celebrating people who have come together because of this community. So if any one of those couples breaks up, it feels kind of significant that it would change things, because everybody has to then figure out how they're going to treat them. I mean, Joel literally doesn't have a place to sleep, so they have to make room for him in a different type of way. It's just kind of it's interesting that they're now, like, Midge has been able to, like, live her secret life without too much scrutiny, and now everything that she is completely on display.
Yeah, and in fact, she mentions that in her conversation with Susie before they go up. um Susie said something to the effect of, "Oh, you're going to the Catskills. That's great. You can just, you can perform up there." And Midge's first reaction is say, "No way. They all know me up there. Like, I can't." Like, she's, in the city, she's able to, like you just said, she's able to move in a totally different circle, or totally different stratum, and up there it's way more, it's all her people, so to speak. And going back to what you said about divorce, um the I have to I have to remember what Emily said to Lorelai in I Am a Kayak, the episode in the 7th season, where Emily said something like, if back in my day, if there was a divorce, it meant the system was breaking down. And so I think maybe that's what people are reacting to as well.
Yeah, because someone's marital status actually dictates how you treat them, and so it is a total curveball when anyone gets divorced in this society, right? Because now, I mean, we've seen that with, like, Midge's mother, that she, like, doesn't know what to do. She, even when she asks her, "Are you dating?" You could see it's like a real it's a real tough pill for her to swallow to even ask the question, you know, because she's just sort of like, I don't know what to ask my divorcing daughter. Like, that's not ever something that I planned for myself, to have a daughter that's getting divorced. So it's kind of, yeah, like, you're right. It just completely messes with the system, and you know, that's uncomfortable for people who rely on societal norms to get them through.
True. I'm sorry, we forgot to the ability to raise your hand and come up on the couch is open. And I'm sorry if I didn't mention that before, or if we didn't mention that before. But come on up if you want to talk.
So, Curry, what was your favorite thing? Or Nancy, what's your favorite thing about this episode that you haven't talked about yet?
That I haven't talked
All of the
about yet.
same. I mean, my favorite thing is just watching them all come together at this resort, and like the dancing and the singing and just all of that put together, and trying to become one happy family for 2 months out of the summer, and living all together under this, well, it's probably about smaller than their apartment in New York, actually. And trying to come together and be, you know, don't put, it's just like, and I liked, my true favorite part was probably when Joel starts to stick up for her in
Mm,
the beginning. And, it's like truly like that is like a sign of a good man. He knows, you know, he realizes that everybody's looking at them, and he says something, and it's just like, and he sticks up for her. And I think that was a good, you know, gesture on his part.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, well, there's so many things to be favorited about. I mean, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant to say. It's so many things to say that were my favorite. The I love the relationship between Rose and Midge in this episode, because it was only 2 episodes ago that she was trying to move permanently to Paris, was Rose. And so the fact that she is sort of taking they're really simpatico in until the whole matchmaking thing at the end, but or towards the end. But um and then it was sort of the old dynamics, I guess. But um I just loved how really close they were, and how they're like that little scene on the porch, um where they're sitting, and, oh, I think it looks good, and I think we laid it out well. And then saw the head of the Steiner resort comes, and now and you saw Rose's face just get stone cold when she realized that Midge was not going to
Be
be
included.
included in the pageant. And so there was this steely look that she got, like, oh my gosh, my status is, or my daughter's status that does reflect on her, is being reduced, or is being. And so I don't know, but there's just so much to love about this episode, in terms of the sets, and just the setting, and that dance scene is so spectacular, and the costumes, and then I love the fact that Susie showed up. I love that fact that Susie said, there's nothing for me in the city, I'm gonna go and figure out what is happening up here. And I just love that whole the way they shot Susie's perspective of things. And you watch her go through the kitchen, and this just abundance of dishes with leftover food, and she's thinking, okay, this is how I'm going to eat. And then and then he says, oh, there's a whole nother room for staff. And then she doesn't know where she's going to sleep, and then she just wanders up to the cabins where the staff stay, and gets her own bunk bed. I really like that part as well, because it is showing that other side. And I know that Dirty Dancing shows the living quarters of the staff as well, and that many fascinating things happen there. But
When it comes to Susie, Curry, I was thinking, how can Susie go up there for 2 months with no income? But then all those scenes kind of explain how she would be able to kind of float through there for 2 months and not have to spend any money.
that's right. What except for cigarettes, which you could bum, and which they probably have some sort of little, places like that. You don't. If I can really sort of make an educated guess, they probably do not encourage the staff to leave at all. There's probably some little mini commissary where staff can buy little necessities so that they really truly don't have to leave either, and they don't encourage the residents to leave. And it's like, it's like any all those all inclusive resorts that people go to. It's really like the original all inclusive resort in that way. There's no It's a whole world, and really everybody is just supposed to stay there and not it's got everything it's got everything that anybody could need, except for something extreme. And so there's really no need to leave for
Are
either
we?
staff or
There are
the
bugs.
residents.
There are bugs though,
There
I was
are
gonna
and
say,
bugs.
it has
There's
so
everything,
enough bugs
including
for
bugs.
everybody. There's enough bugs for everybody. There's enough
are
bugs
we
to go
are
around.
we to assume that the husbands can just take the 2 months off of work in the summer, or are they commuting back and forth? Or are these just people who are so well off they don't actually have to work for 2 months of their
so
life?
so I have to again defer to popular culture and think of the 7-year itch, and how they made a big deal about how every summer the wives go out of town for months with the children, and the men stay back in the city and work, and then go for wherever. I
Just for
think
the
in this
weekend.
Yes, exactly. I think in this case it was a lot of people go to Long Island, go to the Hamptons or something, and um and that, or the Catskills in this case, and that the husbands come up for the weekend. And I think that's definitely a thing. And maybe the older couples because there were so many, there were multiple generations here, and that the older couples maybe are retired or don't have to, or can afford to, um you know to take a month off or 2 months off. But the women who don't work outside the home can for sure afford to do that.
See,
Bring their
I'm
children up.
thinking of Abe and his Bell Labs job. So obviously, as a teacher at Columbia, he probably had the summer off because he probably didn't have any summer classes to teach. But he had that job at Bell Labs that we all kept wondering about last time. Is he still working there? Like when he went to Paris and all that kind of stuff. And now here he is for 2 months in the Catskills. Is he not working at Bell Labs
Yeah,
anymore? That's kind of where I was thinking of.
that's a good point, because as recently as the previous episode, he was working at both places because he had to have different outfits. Isn't do I am I remembering seasons?
Yeah,
Am I remembering
that's
episode 3?
correct.
He had to
Yeah.
have whimsical socks and non-whimsical socks, or I can't remember the word he used, but
Comedy
yeah.
socks, I
So
think he said.
that's I think that's comedy socks, right? So that's another kind of um Paladinoism, if I may, where it's just they create this world where things like that, details. So he's leaving a job that he just acquired, that he's been coveting for years. Um, but it's their excuse to go up and show beautiful sunrises and sunsets.
Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful episode. And I'm not complaining that we got to watch the episode, but sometimes there's just little things I was kind of wondering about. How does that work out exactly? But yeah.
Well, but again, like Midge makes the comment that like the city empties out in the summer, and like that's true. Like I feel like Abe probably could be like on as some kind of consultant at Bell Labs so that he wouldn't be needed all the time, and it would be accepted that he'd be gone for 2 months because he's Jewish and like they go to the Catskills, like I can buy that. I can buy
But
that.
I think they did go back and forth to the city over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
just because they take 2 months off, they're not really, some of the men will go back and work in the city.
Yeah.
And there's some allusion to that in this episode. And I think there's more of it in the next episode, but they will travel back and forth and take care of things that they need to in the city and then come back on the weekends.
Right.
And I think too, at that time when you would, I feel like nowadays when we use like PTO, it's like at whatever time of year, whenever we want to go on like a vacation. But back then, I mean, it was very common that you would save up your vacation time, use it all at once, and it'd be like over the summer for these kinds of vacations, which granted, it's not necessarily 2 months, but you could see like the husbands coming for like the first week and the last week, and then maybe like weekends in the middle.
Right. I mean, I still see it on the Cape. The you know, somebody stays with the kids, throughout the week, and then the main breadwinner comes down from Boston or comes out from Connecticut and stays for the weekend. That's still, I think, that a pattern, maybe not the same genders as we're seeing in this era, but today, in today, that pattern still kind of exists.
Yeah, like the Hamptons, I know that system still exists there very much so.
Yeah, I suppose there's people here or where I live where in the summertime they'll go up to their cabin for most of summer, but some of them come back and forth if they can't take a lot of time off at once. And it's a 2-hour drive each direction kind of thing. So their family might be at the lake most of the week and then they just go up on the weekends. It does exist here too. It's just, I was just kind of thinking about it because of Abe's job situation. And I know we had talked about it the other day and it just kind of made me wonder like, Abe just really isn't working at Bell Labs. We never see it.
So, Curry, if during the summer you need somebody to come and be like your week person, I'll be that person,
I
okay?
do you I have a guest room, and I may just start calling it the Remarkist room.
Yeah.
Of course, my mother has to come visit, but I'm trying to get her to be a Remarkist too. She's an honorary Remarkist, but yeah,
I'll just pack my
it's
computer up for the summer and my dogs and my cats and my birds.
birds. Yes,
And,
exactly.
and I'll just take off for the Cape.
And
Next
probably by
meeting.
that time, an alligator or a crocodile you'll probably have acquired, um, or a buffalo
Maybe.
or Bigfoot.
Maybe.
Um, Wait, yeah, John, there might be a Bigfoot sighting in the woods at the Steiner Resort. I don't know, or a skunk ape.
So we're gonna likely be in the Catskills for at least another episode, huh?
That was what was implied. Yes.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So bugs for another episode.
Bugs for
John,
another episode.
You'll
I love that.
you'll survive.
John, you realize there are
No,
bugs in the city as well,
no,
right?
I like I'm half kidding. I never really found the appeal of like a resort type experience in those settings. Like I never went to summer camp, like I never went to sleepaway camp, and I just think in general, uh, it just has never really totally appealed to me, the going to those type of resort settings. So I was watching it and I was really trying to stretch my mind to imagine like what is it about this that's enjoyable, like what is it that like would have like thousands of people every summer flock to that. Is it the camp songs that everybody's singing together inside those rooms? I Is it in the end it really came down to, I think it's just get just hanging out and drinking.
I'll tell
Just
you what
like
it is.
having
For the
cocktails, like,
grown-ups. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
yeah.
tell you what it is. The summer in New York City is literally death. It is the worst thing you could possibly imagine because everybody is cramped together and it is smelly. The garbage smells like you can smell it everywhere. the bug situation is out of control in New York because it's just
It's
they just all
probably
come
worse than
out.
in the Catskills.
It's horrendous. It is
The
the worst time on earth.
the bug
And
situation in the city in the summer is probably worse than the bugs that you'll find in the
that's what I
Bush
mean. Like,
Mountains.
I would trade the bugs in the summer and the smells and like most places you go, like if you have to take a subway, if you have to take public, if you have to walk anywhere, there's no air conditioning. There definitely wasn't in the 50s. It is horrendous. So if you could escape to a place where you could at least get some fresh air and like not smell garbage, like for 2 straight months, you'd go. So I feel like it's a small price to pay. But also, like, then, I mean, imagine if you were in this community and you didn't go to the Catskills, like how much social capital you'd miss out on?
I can speak to that as well. So it will probably surprise none of you to learn that I was a 12-year camp goer. I was, camper for 9 years, uh, counselor for 3, and then went back as a grown up, as a mom, and went back to volunteer and brought Isaac along when he was younger than camp age. Anyway, what John said about the singing and the traditions, they are so strong and so they're so it's something it's sort of like a constant in an otherwise ever changing world. That camp is going to be the same every year, and those people that go to those resorts, they count on things being the same every year. The shuffleboard, the ping pong tables, yes, get us more hula hoops, yes, get us more ping pong balls or whatever, that whole thing, or more floaties. But other than that, they don't want things to change. They want things to stay the same. Look at how proud they were to say, or how they made a point to say, you're in your same cabin, or your same cottage that you've always been in, or that you've had for the past years. And that whole draw of tradition is extremely strong. And I'm sure it is in other cultures, but for sure, in the modern 20th century Jewish culture, very, very important. Would be those traditions. And the bugs, if I can comment on the bugs, they're just sort of a part of life, and you get used to them. And yes, we had bug bites all over us. We were kids, and we found little different ways to, you know to stop the itching without any medication, because you had to go to the infirmary to get any sort of little. They didn't even give you anything for it. You just had to sort of tough it out, unless you were super, unless it was, extreme.
You are selling camp to me, Curry.
So, and my camp setting was the Poconos, which is sort of Catskills light. I mean, it's very similar, and indeed there are. When I say there are still resorts like what we were talking about with the Catskills, I know there are family resorts still in the Poconos. And my own camp sort of tries to sell itself a little bit like that, but only in the non-camp season, because we're still at camp. Um um but one person who, the summer of, I'm sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, I'll stop in a minute, but with the summer of 2020, they did not, was it 2020, they did not open as a camp. They just had families come and stay in our cabins, and do camp things like tie dye and go canoeing on the lake, and different, and stained glass and stuff like that. And then one of the people who came said, you guys should just stop being a summer camp and just do this year round. And as a, alum and a former camper, that scandalized me. But I realized that to some people's perspectives, that's what a uh, uh, a facility like that would be. It had a big lodge where we would have those kinds of meetings, and a playhouse. And anyway, my point is that is a phenomenon that is definitely, I don't know if it's, I would think that it's not just reserved for the Northeast, that in Minnesota and Wisconsin and other sort of northern climes, they have, Michigan, that they would have these. And even I know there's a big camp tradition in North Carolina, but I think it does tend to be in the mountainous regions. And that concludes my talk. That concludes my
Mhm.
talk about camp.
There's
But
a
I,
big camp tradition in Oklahoma. However, we do not have mountains here. It's just like the depths of hell when you go to camp because there's no freaking air conditioning anywhere at camp. It's 15 degrees outside and 80% humidity. It's just like, but it's fun.
See, now
And I always loved it.
I
We
imagine
I
that's why they left the city was because there was no air conditioning back in those days, so they all had to leave the city
yeah,
to
that
get to cooler weather, right?
it might be largely influenced by growing up in Miami in such a hot, humid environment, and just the forests being. Because I mean, if I think about it, like I like when I go to Germany to visit my in-laws. We sometimes go to the forest. They have really beautiful forested areas near there, and they're quite beautiful. I think a lot of it is just growing up in Miami where it's so hot, so humid. There are so many bugs. Just grass is grass is itchy and stuff is itchy, and the forests are just a kind of an itchy place.
I'm sorry, Nikki, did you want to talk? I'm sorry if I missed it.
no, it's okay. I was just gonna say, I feel like part of the draw to, like, I'm a person that's a real homebody. I like to have a home base. So the idea of going to the same place every summer and I'm there for 2 months and I know exactly what's there and how I'm going to arrange things, like, to me, that's very appealing.
See,
And certainly it seems to really appeal to Midge, and Abe and her mom. They like that they know what to expect.
I thought where you were going with that was I'm a real homebody. I like, to sort of have my home base, and all I'm thinking seeing them there is, don't they want to be back home? Don't they want to get back to their things?
No, because they
Don't they
make
want to
it,
be
it's like it's their summer home, right? Like,
Yeah, I guess
they've
that I
been
guess
going
that's the
there
thing.
every year, so, like, and they're in the same cabin, right? So
Yeah.
it's like another home, and they know exactly what's there and what they need and what to expect, and
Bingo.
they have it all figured out. And they instantly go into this, like, unpacking nesting mode when they get there, right? So that they're established.
Yeah,
Right on the
most
nose.
of their things. So, like, they did pack a full U-Haul of familiar items. So,
There is a documentary on Prime called like Welcome to Kutcher's, and it's about one of the real resorts that were in the Catskills, and I think it's like the last one that was still there because they all went out of business. And it's, I don't know, it's kind of sad, but it talks a lot about the culture that we're kind of discussing right now. So that one's on Prime if anyone
yeah, I scheduled
wanted
a
to learn
watch
more.
of it for
Oh,
two
perfect.
2 weeks from today, I want to say. It's the 29th. Because
Well,
it
you're
really does
welcome
get
for
into it.
promoting it. Yeah,
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 yeah.
absolutely. Thank you. I did watch it and I found it so fascinating, and there was a lot that came out of that, like, I had absolutely no idea had happened. Just like American culture stuff, like cultural figures that ended up like on these resort circuits that, like, you'd never guess. And I thought it was really cool. So the thing that's really interesting though about this is that there's no stand up in it. there's no There are many microphones and Midge doesn't go to one of them, and
Well,
it's kind of interesting.
I think that
Nobody
might
Joel
there
be
knows she
does,
does it,
but Joel does.
you're right.
but she doesn't
um,
do that in front of her friends and family yet,
I was
except
just
for the
gonna
girls
say,
at the
yeah,
Right.
store.
she wants to. I think she still can't reconcile that part of her life with with this year in and year out year tradition that where everybody knows her, and look at how they're reacting to this divorce, which happens to a lot of people. um maybe not so much back then, but how would they react to the fact that she's working as a, comedian at, late night comedian? So I think that that may be why. And I get the sense also that we're we're only seeing a few days of a few days in the very beginning when they first arrive. Obviously we see them arriving, but like we're not, I get the sense that not that many days have passed from their arrival to that final scene with the fireworks. And I'm assuming the fireworks, that's a Fourth of July thing. So maybe it, that's like that Fourth of July weekend or Fourth of July week sort of is the traditional beginning of um
Summer.
of everybody's stay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I assumed, that July 4th was kind of the kickoff of resort season.
Yeah, you'd probably go from July 4th weekend through Labor Day weekend, which would be exactly 2 months.
Right, and if you think about it now, when like I sent my kids to camp, we would send them like about a week before, 4th of July or that weekend, the end of June after schools get out, and before before the fourth, so everybody is where they need to be for that fourth celebration.
Oh yeah, I never knew anything about Fourth of July celebrations except for at camp for more than a decade. And I always make sure Isaac is at camp for Fourth of July because I don't know. I don't have any other frame of reference.
None of the camps I attended were in session during 4th of July. It was like we went before, a little bit before, and then we went after. But 4th of July is a huge deal here. So every town, every suburb, every city, it's just this big deal. So camps were just kind of closed during 4th of July week.
So, John, how did this one rank in your ranking of episodes?
Oh, I liked this one. I would put this one pretty high, even though I'm critiquing all this stuff about the Catskills itself, or
You mean the
or
bugs?
just kind of
I'm
yeah,
just
retreat. Just the whole retreat thing is not my cup of tea, but um, I thought that it was an interesting world to be in for an episode, and I thought it was a really, I think it's an interesting little arc. One thing that I'm really enjoying about this show, uh, and I feel like it's this season more so than last season. Last season felt like it had a real drive throughout every episode. It felt much more serialized. This season doesn't feel as serialized as last season. There are, of course, serialized through lines, storylines, all of the stuff with Midge and Joel, but um, they 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 jump time in a way in this season that reminds me of the way that Gilmore Girls jumps time, and it allows them to do little mini arcs. If we're going to be in this episode, or we're going to be in the Catskills for another episode, and then say they come back from the Catskills after the next episode, right? So like 2 episodes of the Catskills. That I would imagine that when they get back to the city, we'll sort of reboot again, and we'll get this sense that we're kind of starting a new little story arc there. But last episode felt like its own thing. Um, it ended with Joel finding that room that he kind of feels like could be his new place to live. And in a really highly serialized show, we would have started kind of from there, or we would have sort of still been in a setting where we could kind of see how that's going to start to play itself out. But we kind of rebooted, and now we're, you know, in this little mini storyline. It's not like all of the like they've certainly kept all of the important aspects of what's going on in everybody's lives, but it feels contained, and there's something that I actually kind of find uh, nice about that. I've been appreciating I've been lately appreciating content that is a little less serialized, where I can kind of start and feel like I've sort of the episode has started me fresh on a little story.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I you're absolutely right. This could be one of those episodes where it's just sort of a trip, and it ends. But yeah, I didn't even think about that until, because it really does have a lot of those elements where we're meeting different people that we don't get the sense that they're people that we're going to see again. I mean, in the exchanges, going back to the two women that walk up to her in the meeting hall, and so it could be like that kind of episode. But knowing what you know, and looking at episode guides, you know
Yeah,
that they're going to be
yeah,
there.
I haven't really. I don't know what's coming next, but this episode, it last the two Paris episodes felt like their own thing. They felt like a mini arc, a mini arc of two episodes, and the third episode also felt like its own thing that didn't feel particularly connected to the Paris stuff. Certainly, it had the all of the circumstances that everything that kind of happened in the Paris thing, those circumstances now they pass over into that new episode, but it's still very very much episode 3 felt the beginning of a new little mini story arc, and this one also felt like the beginning of a new little story arc, rather than a continuation of what we were just seeing the episode before. And I feel like in season 1, the episodes really strung one episode into the other. Like, we were really picking up where we left off in the previous episode to know what's going to happen next to Midge, based on what just happened to her in the last episode. And so far this season has not felt that way. It's felt a little less serialized. It's felt a little more like contained little mini arcs. And I don't know if that's going to continue, that trend will continue through the end of the season. But I think that if it does, it might actually it might actually explain why some folks actually start to get won over by the series in season 2 rather than in season 1, because that would be a more comfortable experience way to experience this world. Yeah, it would make it actually feel more like a world rather than a driving narrative, where every episode is a chapter that really follows the chapter that came before it.
Do you think that the first season was what you just described, and then this season, do you think it's more like they feel more secure, um in as creators to really to really go into that, do a deep dive into something like this, um where they sort of leave that whole other storyline that they've worked on and created, and go and um sort of go to the Catskills, and this is the middle. Oh no, this is the fourth of 10 episodes, and the first season they only had 8 episodes. Do you think that there's that contrast? Do you think, I mean, this would be just an educated guess on your part, or maybe but do, like, why there is that difference?
I don't really know. I mean, that was that was very much the way that Gilmore Girls was written. Gilmore Girls was written as, I'd say like later seasons probably resemble what I'm experiencing in the beginning of this season, where we have a pretty heavy degree of serialization going on, meaning like we're really invested in a big story that we're waiting to find out what the next, major thing is going to happen to the characters. However, we also understand that every episode or every like, two or three bundled episodes might kind of be their own thing as well. The episode may start sort of fresh with some big, I mean, it was actually a big part of Gilmore Girls, right? Where like the episode would sort of begin with this big thing that's happening in the town, that gives it this almost like new beginning, which is very different from serialized content, which doesn't have that kind of every episode or every couple of episodes, like we get this big like rebooting, big beginning thing. Usually, like in this day and age, serialized content is really truly serialized. Like, you watch the episode and then the next episode it's like, when last we saw our characters, they were here they are again, and we continue with them. And they're used to writing in more of this format. The trend today is to write things more serialized. Every show on the air has a very serial, or most of them have a very serialized um, aspect to them. And for that reason, I would say maybe, they began this show doing what everyone else was doing, a little bit more, but that their comfort zone is to just be able to like write what they want to write. And they're like, we know these characters, we know where they are, we know what major problems are going on with them. We know what they want, we know what their major arc across the series is. We don't need to like be super serialized to keep all of that stuff in the air. We can just like, take them to Paris in these two episodes and, go to the Catskills, and we can jump big stretches of time between episodes to really give a good sense of a reboot, like we are beginning a new story arc here. And if that's, if that's the kind of storytelling that they really like, which seems, it's, if you look at past shows, it seems to be a form of storytelling that Amy is at least very comfortable writing, then it would make sense to me that this show would start to take on some of those traits. But it certainly feels like that this season is doing that a lot, way more to me. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm not really remembering season one well enough, but it doesn't seem like season one really like, had as many episodes that were like, oh, okay, like we jumped a bunch of time and now we sort of rebooted and we're kind of in a new little storyline with Midge.
It's
No,
way more linear.
I think you're right. And I think the first season is all about the cheating, the separation, the new career. So, like, those things are happening in such real time for us as viewers that, like, of course, it would, like, we would be so invested week to week or episode to episode because, like, this pretty big trauma has happened. And so, we're watching a character like make like we're watching a few characters make their next moves based on that initial trauma, whereas this season, like we start in like January and then it's March and now it's summer and it's like it's very much like, okay, like this is the aftermath of a life that has been upended by something traumatic. So it's really about that passage of time, I think, in a way where, the characters are not having to deal with the reality of the thing that just happened in like everyday, like sort of traumatic ways, because it is such a big deal that, her marriage would end and like and or would change, or and her living situation would too. But like now it's almost like a stasis where it's like, okay, like that thing happened last year, now I'm just living with it. And and then we get to the summer here where like it hasn't been a full year since Joel left. So they're at, you know, because Joel left in at Yom Kippur, so like we know what month that's in, right? So like we know that like the summer had not happened yet. So now it's like, oh, it's like we're now at a place where we haven't been before in terms of the separation, and so we kind of have to deal with it in a different way. But other than this episode, they're just sort of getting by, like they're not dealing with the trauma every single day like they were last season. They're more just like settling into a new normal.
Act. They're trying to settle in. They're trying to parent their children, which they seem to forget about all the time. They leave them in the car.
Yeah, I mean, I
children?
think that
What
I think that
children?
but I think that the yeah, right. That's it's so funny um how I I think that if there's one thing that may actually turn folks off to Midge Maisel who really love Gilmore Girls, it might be that the mother thing. Just the like kind of barely paying attention and and the jokes about leaving babies in the car and all of that kind of stuff. I think that there might be folks who really love Gilmore Girls and love just the themes of motherhood and the fact that you could have like this sort of no nonsense mother character who still like is just 150% there for her child, whereas Midge is you forget she's even a mother at times during the series.
Lee, did you? I'm sorry. If, were you flashing on
Yes, I
purpose?
was. I didn't want to interrupt the conversation. I do need to head out because I need to open my room for midnight mass. But before I left, I did want to say to you guys that I'm looking for hosts or co-hosts for our Wednesday rewatches of Maisel. So if anyone hasn't seen that on Discord, I just wanted to let everyone know if you want to rewatch, host a rewatch, I should say, just please message me on Discord and I will figure out a day for you to either host or co-host.
Thanks, Lee.
Of
Sounds good.
course. Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Lee.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to head out as well. But I'm curious to find out if they're going to be at in the Catskills again. By this theory that I have that they're kind of moving away, not completely, but they're sort of moving a little bit away from the highly serialized nature of the first season. Um, I could see us just starting off in New York again. So, in the next episode, just back in New York. It's been weeks, maybe months, maybe it's new time of year, and like again we sort of reboot. Which as I said, I actually find this kind of comfortable. There's something about that I think makes it makes the series less driving, like it makes the narrative less driving, but it makes the world more cozy.
I would agree with that. I think that it really illustrates how there is this network and this community that she's a part of, and it also kind of it really it really provides an even starker contrast to what she does at night and what she has resolutely decided to devote her life to.
Yeah, totally. All right, everyone. I will see you soon on the Discords in the clubhouses.
Thanks for coming, John.
Yep. Thanks for hosting.
John.
Bye. Oh, he's gone.
Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all.